Triple H has responded to fans calling for his head. Where the hell was Randy Orton in all of it? And we've got the reason John Cena was booked to lose his final match. Stay tuned for all the deets, brother. So obviously, Cena's final match was always probably going to be a divisive one.
Yeah.
I think that it's one of those things where everybody has the perfect idea of it in their mind. Maybe it's not going to come off quite how they'd anticipated. And obviously John Cena's somebody people feel very, very strongly about, especially in the past, one way or the other. But now he just seems to be more of a universally beloved figure. But on the post show for Saturday night's main event, the boos continued after Triple H had already come out earlier in the evening at the end and got absolutely hammered with boos by the audience.
Yeah.
But some fans were even chanting for AEW while he was sat in the chair on the post show. But he responded to this fan reaction by saying, look, there are time-honored traditions in our business. There's a way you handle your business. John has said the right thing his entire career, that it's about leaving the place better than you found it. I think that there's no way for people to understand that in the moment, but if you do what's right for the business, you do what's right for this industry. John has done that his entire career, and I'm going to do that my entire career, what I believe's right for this business. It just is what it is. And I understand that's tough for people to understand, but it's part of what we do. That's a role we've chosen.
Yeah, he goes on to say, take the emotion out of it and ask people what would Cena do? And
It's like a Meltzer report, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a little bit. And I'm talking about the character, his entire career. Sum that all up and say, what would he do on the way out, right? If he wants to talk behind the scenes, he will put over somebody on the way out. He will leave this better than he found it. He will go into the ring and he will make somebody on his way up. That's what John does. It's what John has always done. I know people will criticize this. I think people will look at it. People will talk about this moment right here. I've got big shows. I'm good with it.
I'm making millions of dollars. I don't care.
Woo!
But as I said, I think it was always going to be very divisive. I think the idea that Cena loses on his way out is traditional. As he says, as he alludes to, the traditions of the business. Wrestling is an industry with a bunch of crazy traditions, from getting to the ring and wiping your feet before you step into it, to losing your final match to put a younger star over. And if Cena is the type of person to give back, maybe that's exactly what he wanted to do here. But it was never going to go down well with the crowd. Obviously, there's the whole element of the smile, and there was all that kind of discussion of like, well, should he have tapped? Should he have given up? Like Mr. Never give up. But I think that ultimately, I like the comment at the end. It's like, I got big shows. I got big shows. But I think that, the fan response, I mean, we were on stream and it was like the air went out the room. It went deathly silent. And then Gunter's music slowly came in. Yeah. And it was, for that split second, it was like, you could hear a pin drop. It was like shock.
It was, in my opinion, I really liked the ending.
Yeah.
I really sort of thought that on his way out, Cena would go and put somebody over. Yeah. And maybe for a lot of people, Gunther already feels like he's a made guy and doesn't necessarily need to be the one to have that rub from John Cena. But the fact that Cena tapped out for the first time in God knows how long, like 20 years or something, was a huge way to do it, and something that surprised me in terms of like, oh, this is how you could elevate Gunther just that little bit more somehow. And I really liked that. And I guess, the fan reaction to boos, that may have also been the fact that when Triple H came out, there was very much a lot of boos for him, directed at him specifically, it felt like. And I can see where people are coming from with the booking of this thing and how it feels like we've had wasted opportunities with some of the heel turn stuff.
I agree there. I think that there was a big slapper time in the middle there that they didn't really need to do.
Yeah.
And the man who was kind of core front and center for that wasn't even present.
Yes.
So The Rock didn't even, he wasn't part of it, which I think a lot of people were quite relieved at, because if his music had hit, it would have been like, oh, what are we doing now? But I think that, it was just misguided, as you said.
Yeah.
It seemed a bit, okay, cool, we've got heel Cena, but it lasted for all of a month?
Yeah, a little bit longer than that, and with some okay matches peppered in.
That's a big slot of time that you could have been doing a little bit more build, a little bit more going on. So I understand people just generally with the overall booking of it, but the finish, I thought, it was always going to have this kind of split response if it went that way.
Yeah.
But one person who was very conspicuous by his absence, there were several legends and high-profile opponents of Cena's in attendance for the retirement. RVD was there, Kevin Owens was there, Sami Zayn, Mark Henry, Trish Stratus, even Elijah. The roster also came out right at the end post-match to celebrate with him in a big teary, emotional moment. But one man tied to Cena long-term and entirely conspicuous, as I said, by his absence was Randy Orton, with many wondering why he wasn't included in the night's festivities. And we've got the reason why, don't we, Andrew?
Yes, we do. He was apparently in Saudi Arabia for Riyadh season and to promote Royal Rumble 2026, which will take place in the capital city of Saudi Arabia on Saturday, January 31st. Orton was part of a WWE delegation sent to Saudi Arabia that also included Liv Morgan, Omos, Grayson Waller and Tiffany Stratton. And Orton was spotted taking part in promotion for Beastland, everybody, a temporary theme park opened in Saudi by Mr. Beast himself. According to Fightful Select, there were some backstage at Saturday night's main event that were disappointed that Orton was unable to make it to Washington, D.C., and I think rightly so as well, to be honest.
Yeah, he made one very fleeting appearance in the very final promo package they did after Cena had lost. He wasn't part of the promo package earlier in the night, which even Brock held up a bit of paper for it.
Yep.
And he seems like somebody who would just kind of ignore anything like that. But it's sort of... It was just odd, really. Like, everybody was kind of expecting him to be involved in some way, shape, or form, and just having that tiny little flash from him at the end, it led to a lot of speculation, a lot of like, But with the Riyadh thing, for me, it's like, yeah, you know, you've got your partnerships, you need to go and you need to meet all these obligations, and you've got to go and advertise stuff. Surely it's better for you to have Orton at Cena's retirement as a means of marketing WWE as it is to have him out there, you know, trying to win 50 grand at Beastland. Like,
it's true though, because that felt like such a glaring omission, and people,
one of his greatest ever rivals.
Exactly, and it just felt like a missed opportunity not to have him there, have some sort of moment with, because he had a little bit of a moment with Cody and Punk in the ring as well.
Even if they just shook hands, even if there was just a little bit more, and especially with the fact that the packages seem to be pre-produced. I don't think they were making those on the night, obviously, but like it's one of those where it's like, surely you could have had Randy hold him a bit of paper if you knew you were going to do this.
That's a great point. That actually just genuinely didn't even cross my mind there, but you're right, yeah. Why was he not?
So it's just kind of like, for me, it's one of those where it's like, surely you can work your marketing dates around other stuff, but I guess if it's obligations, it's obligations. But
do you think they sort of maybe try and, if they do want to rectify it, do you think they rectify it by if Cena and when Cena is inducted into the Hall of Fame? Do you think Randy would be the one to induct him?
Well, there was always talk that it would have to be Vince, but now, no. So I think Randy would make a very, very good amount of sense for Cena's induction, for sure. But according to Fightful Select, there were some backstage at the event itself that were disappointed he was unable to make it as well. So it's not just fans, it's actual, people within the company were just like, like, it's such a wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
So, there was one other person who WWE were apparently very interested in getting, and there'd been talk for months of the possibility of Donald Trump attending Cena's last match, because the show is taking place in Washington, D.C. He apparently lives right round the corner, and he's also attended a number of sporting events since being elected as the 47th president. He was the WWE Hall of Famer, Donald Trump, attended the Army versus Navy American football game at Baltimore's M&T Bank Stadium on Saturday. WWE wanted Trump to be in attendance for Saturday night's main event, and that was reported by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer. The 79-year-old would have been able to attend, apparently, as well, as he wished to do so, but Trump ultimately decided not to go to the WWE show. Key figures, however, from his administration did go to Saturday night's main event, including, surprise, surprise, former WWE CEO Linda McMahon, who's the current United States Secretary for Education. Project 2025 author and U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick was also in attendance, as was Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You got to think that they wanted him there.
Yeah.
Like, and this isn't, not going to try and swing this and talk politics and stuff, just purely from a marketing perspective, having the president there, having that bit of footage of, Cena saluting the president, or the president saluting Cena, or something like that, they could dine out on for years. It's a massive, massive get to get any president of any country to attend any sort of major event, I'd imagine. So to be able to have him there, they must have really, really wanted it, but ultimately it didn't land quite in their favor.
I guess that's it, and as you mentioned, I guess with it being in Washington, D.C. too, for them to say, like, we have have the president of the United States say Cena, very, military-esque in sort of his mannerisms and the things that he does. It would have kind of...
It's the man who caught Osama bin Laden.
To a permanent end.
Captured and compromised to a permanent end.
That's the one, that's the guy.
I wrestled my match, I went and found him, sorted him out, I came back out, done. But I think they'll get him eventually, though. We've got UFC taking place on the White House lawn. They keep touting that. TKO obviously owns both. I think it's only a matter of time until there's a WWE event on the White House lawn at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think that they will eventually have that, but just not with Cena there. But moving to the bigger question here, which was, why did John lose? Now, his career came to an end after 26 years. If you haven't noticed already what we've been talking about, if you've been living under a rock, John Cena, his career came to an end after 26 years on Saturday night's main event just gone. But he smiled as he was being cinched up by Gunther in a sleeper. He smiled to himself and he just gently tapped on his arm. And that decision, as we said earlier, was quite a divisive one. It was met with a lot of anger by fans inside the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C., to the point that WWE Chief Content Officer Triple H, as we said, was loudly booed shortly after the match when he came down to celebrate. And there were chants for AEW during the Saturday night's main event post-show. Now, the Wrestling Observer have reported, though, they've reported, though, that the booking for Cena to lose his retirement match was what Cena and WWE wanted, with the idea that it was about making somebody on the way out. So in this case, it was Gunther who received such nuclear heat for the win. He had to be escorted to his tour bus by security.
That must feel amazing.
Did you see the footage of the fan on the front row, the little kid?
No.
So he stood behind commentary, and I think it's after the match. He is like, this kid is crying. He is like crying his eyes out, and he's screaming at Gunther, like top of his lungs, like bloody screaming at him, like just going off like, I hate you so much, like he's better than you, like you'll never be as good as he was. And Gunther's just standing there. You can see him just sort of like taking it in, and it's like, yeah. But the kid eventually like just can't, like, I think Gunther says something back to him, and the kid just kind of harumphs and just walks off in a flood of tears. God. And that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
It's not always going to be nice. It's not always going to be easy. Sometimes it's going to feel like having the Band-Aid ripped off. But investment like that, yes, you run the risk of peeing people off to the point that they don't come back. Like, some fans might just go, oh, that sucked, never come back. But at the same time, those who now want to see Gunther, like they want his head, right? So I think that ultimately you can pivot it, and I think it's one of those things. Like within WWE, apparently, this was noted by Fightful Select, most of the creative side of the company were in favor of the finish to Cena's last match. And a number of talents wanted Cena to win his final match, but they also understood Gunther winning and the booking moving forward. Now, just to go back to sort of the tradition of it, pro wrestlers have traditionally lost their retirement matches, although there have been a couple of notable exceptions, staying at AEW Revolution 2024 and Undertaker at WrestleMania 36. But, sorry, was it 36? Yeah. 33, regardless, was when Taker took off his gloves and everything and left him in the ring, and that felt very much like a retirement. And then the kind of fever dream return of Taker, and then he got the Boneyard match. But I think that, like, ultimately the biggest thing here was when we were on stream, people were saying, like, why did it have to be that way? Why did he have to tap? Why couldn't he have pinned him? Why couldn't he have passed out? And I understand, but I think that having Cena had, like, not tapped for 20 years... And it wasn't like he was, viciously tapping, screaming for his safety and stuff. Yeah. He tried all the Super Cena stuff. He'd gone through absolutely everything in his arsenal that he could bust out. And it was almost like acceptance. He just went, what am I going to do? And it's sort of like Shayna Baszler touched on, like, there's a difference between letting go and giving up. And I think it was that. It was kind of like he went, well, what else can I possibly do? And then it was kind of that acceptance of, I've been bested.
I think that's it. I think it's the acceptance. And Cena himself has said in interviews and whatnot, like, obviously the reason for, like a big reason for his retirement is just that he doesn't think his body can really keep up with it anymore. And like, he literally gave it his all against Gunther, who has been world heavyweight champion. He's decimated so many people.
He retired Goldberg.
Exactly.
Retired him so bad he didn't even get a speech.
And for Cena to try and overcome someone like that who just literally won't let up at all, continuously trying to put this sleeper on him and getting him in the sleeper, and Cena's trying to do everything he possibly can for him just to be like, yeah, it's time to maybe it is time to just give it up a little bit. He's giving it his all, but he just can't get the job done.
But it's one of those things where I think the company, we'd heard reports saying that, they see Gunther long term as and Dom Mysterio as long term stars. Gunther especially is like long term mega heel.
Yeah.
And like talking 10 years plus. And I think Gunther's somebody whose style is such that he can be wrestling for forever, really. And I think that if he becomes this impenetrable fortress at the top, and nobody's able to really even make a dent, and he just gets to come out and be the spoiler, and he gets to ruin things. He's already retired Goldberg. He's now forever the man who made John Cena give up.
Yep.
And that is worth billions of dollars, I'd imagine, in the right hands.
Absolutely.
So it's one of those things where I think that long term, it makes the most sense to have Gunther retire Cena, simply because he's now the biggest threat going to your enjoyment, to other wrestlers' chances. I think that it makes him just an absolute monster. So I'm all in favor of Gunther retiring him. Maybe we'll see him retire Brock. Maybe he could retire Randy. I don't know. Like, he could become that kind of legend killer himself. But either way, I think that, ultimately, yes, if Cena won, it'd be great. There'd be a huge moment. And he could win. Like, I don't think anybody would be upset with Cena winning, but I think that there would be that kind of small chatter going on of like, but what does it do for Gunther?
And that's it.
Like, but like, if Gunther had beat him, though, he would be this like, mega heel.
Yeah.
And I think that you've got two sides of the coin there, and whichever one it lands on, it's going to be divisive, but I think that ultimately the right choice to do here, and seems to be in line with what Cena believes himself, with what's being said, is, give back.
I think that's it at the end of the day, is just, it's what Cena wanted to do. It's what WWE were hoping Cena would want to do as well, and just to give back to the company. And I think it's a really fitting, really nice way for John Cena to go out whilst putting someone over and stepping them up to that next level, which, as I mentioned, I was like, well, he's already there, so how do you possibly sort of like get higher than that? And I think the way that they did it has done that, and it feels very old school in terms of that. And I love that about it, that he, like, people were genuinely and I thought it was really, really cool. And I was happy with how everything played out.
One thing's for certain, though, when it comes to the point that Randy Orton retires, we know that John Cena will be promoting Beastland 5 by that point, a temporary theme park in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in a big car park. It's really, really bizarre looking through the day. Have you seen it?
I have not.
It looks like Mad Max through the day, because obviously the desert, and there's obviously quite a lot of sandstorms that'll roll through, but it's just kind of like bizarre through the day. And at night, it's like, oh, that looks really cool, but through the day, it's kind of dystopian. It's like, whoa, this is just a giant blue beast head in the middle of it all. But yeah, I think that, it's for the best, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that is it for our first dose of daily news. We might be back later on if anything else drops. But please do also check out, last night we dropped the first part of a 3-parter on the channel, the New Generation series. It's been a long time coming, so we do apologize. We know it's quite late. But the Golden Age covered the point that Vince bought the company from his dad, all the way through to the wheels starting to fall off. The end of Hulkamania, things drying up around 91, 92. This continues straight on from that, and it's going to take us all the way through to the beginning of the Attitude Era. It's going to be every single Sunday for the rest of the month, so please do check it out if you haven't seen it already. It's up on the channel right now.